These exercises can relieve your wrist pain fast. My name is Dr. Jared, and your wrist is a very unique joint. It needs to be very mobile, capable of a lot of different motions, but it also needs to be very strong and stable. Think about the amount of pushing and pulling and gripping that you do throughout your day. If it's not moving the way that it should, or if it's not as strong as it should be, that usually shows up in the form of wrist pain. And therefore, in this video, I want to show you the best stretches and exercises to increase mobility, increase strength, and ultimately eliminate your wrist pain. I hope you find these incredibly effective. Let's get started. We'll start with some simple active range of motion exercises at your wrist. This is a great way to get it warmed up and loosened up and ready for some of the other exercises that we're going to be doing. And so you can sit or you can stand, you can do these supported or unsupported. Again, we're just going for some motion in the wrist with these initial exercises. And so we'll go flexion and extension first, make a nice loose fist, and then I want you to pull your wrist down as far as you comfortably can, hold it for 1 or 2 seconds, and then go up as far as you can and hold that for 1 or 2 seconds. And then we're just going to repeat this motion nice and slow, nice and in control for about 20 repetitions. And then the next motion is going to be radial and ulnar deviation. What I want you to do is now bring kind of a thumbs up position, and then you're going to pull back towards your thumb, and then you're going to pull down towards your pinky side. And so we're moving it up towards the thumb, down towards the pinky. Again, nice and slow, nice and in control, about 20 repetitions in a pain-free range with that one. And then I also like to do some circles. Again, the wrist should be very mobile. If we do some big, right now I'm going clockwise, if we do some big clockwise circles, that hits kind of all of those motions. I would do that for about 20 repetitions, and then we can kick it in reverse. Now I'm going counterclockwise, and we're gonna do that for about 20 repetitions. And honestly, between all of those active motions, we're looking at about 60 to 90 seconds of a warm-up, and that prepares the wrist for some of the stretches that we're going to move into now. And so this first stretch is probably my personal favorite, offers a ton of pain relief to most people that I show it to. I hope that you find that to be the case as well. This is going to be traction at your wrist. And basically your wrist is compressed all day long. This is a great way to decompress your wrist and offer some pain relief in that way. And so what I want you to do is sit, and we're going to rest your elbow right here on your thigh. And now I'm going to take my opposite hand and I'm going to wrap it around the back of my other hand and then pull my hand in that direction. So I'm braced right here on my elbow. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to pull slightly until I get, again, this decompression that takes place at my wrist. I'm going to hold that in a nice, comfortable position for 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm going to relax, and I'm going to repeat that 3 times. Sometimes what I like to show people is that you can actually do a mobilization while you're doing this traction. And so I would pull that hand away from my forearm, and then very subtly, I'm just going to rotate my forearm back and forth. So I'm doing this motion at my forearm, but it's not going anywhere because I'm stabilizing right here at my wrist. Keep that super gentle, keep it super comfortable. A lot of times people will even get a pop or a cavitation in that wrist that results in some decrease in pressure and also some decrease in pain. So that's something that you might want to try out. But again, about 3 times, about 10 to 15 seconds is a good number with that. And so then that moves us into our next stretches, which are going to be for our wrist flexors and wrist extensors. And so what I want you to do is bring your hand into this position right here. With your other hand, we're going to grab the fingertips and pull back towards your shoulder until we get a good comfortable stretch right here through the forearm. I'm going to hold that for 20 seconds, and then I'm going to move down into a wrist extensor stretch. So now I'm going to pull down this way, grab the back of my hand. I'm going to pull down this way to stretch the wrist extensors, and then this way to pull the wrist flexors. I'm going to alternate between those 2 stretches 3 times, 20-second holds each. And then the last stretch that I have for you, Oftentimes people will get pain right here at the base of the thumb or on the outside part of the wrist. This is a favorite stretch of mine to relieve pain in that area. And what you're going to do is tuck your thumb into your hand. So I'm going to pull my thumb down into my palm, and then I'm going to wrap my fingers right around my thumb. And then I'm just going to pull my wrist down towards the pinky side. So with those fingers wrapped around the thumb, we're pulling the thumb down, and then as I pull towards my pinky, I'm gonna get a really good stretch just right here through the top part of my wrist. That one just feels great, especially if you do have some pain right there at the base of the thumb in that area. I would hold that for 20 seconds and repeat that one 3 times. Now, after the stretching, we want to progress things into some strengthening exercises for your wrist. But before we jump into that, I'm curious, have you followed along with the stretches so far? How does your wrist feel? I would love to hear from you. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know how you're doing. Okay, strengthening exercises. The first thing that I always like to start with is actually a gripping exercise. Super functional, we do it all day long, but then it's also a great way. We're using a lot of muscles on both sides of the wrist to stabilize that wrist during these gripping activities. And so there's a couple of ways that we can do this. You can buy a little grip strengthener. These are everywhere. I've got one linked to Amazon down below if you're interested in that. A tennis ball is super easy, something to squeeze. There's not a lot of give to the tennis ball. It's more of an isometric contraction, but you're going to, squeeze that, try that out. The one thing that everybody has, and in my opinion, one of the best things, is gonna be just a rolled up towel. I've just got a small rolled up towel. I'm gonna wrap it in my hand. I'm going to squeeze that as strong as I can comfortably. Hold that for about 3 to 5 seconds and then relax. And then I'm gonna repeat this about 15 to 20 times. It's just a great way to, again, work on strength of your grip, but then also stability in your wrist. Okay, now let's get into some more wrist-specific exercises. We're gonna start with an extension exercise. I've got a small dumbbell here for this one. You can also use a water bottle or a soup can, just whatever you have lying around that's small and that you can grip in your hands. You can do this supported right here on the table. You can do this supported right here on your thigh. But what you're going to do is start with the weight down in your fingers, and then we're going to pull it up above the level of the table. We're gonna feel that in these extensors up here on the back of my forearm, and then drop it back down to this position again. We're gonna go through as large of pain-free motion as you can. Again, keep it comfortable, but I want you to feel those muscles working in that forearm up there. And about 10 to 15 reps repeated 3 times. And then we're gonna go into the wrist flexors. So now I'm just gonna go palm up. I'm gonna start with that weight down in my fingers, let the weight of it pull down into this extension motion, down in this starting position, and then we're gonna pull up towards the ceiling, hold 1, 2, and then return right back down to that position again. And again, about 10 to 15 repetitions repeated 3 times for the wrist flexors as well. And then we'll get into the radial and ulnar deviation motions. If you do have a dumbbell, we can just grab right around one side of the dumbbell, and then the exercise is in this position right here. Another thing that I like to show people is you can do that with a hammer. Hammer's got a weight on the top of it. We can grab the handle, and then what we're gonna do is just basically hammer with the hammer. So my thumb is up, my forearm is supported. I'm going to drop down as far as I can, feel a good stretch through the top of that forearm right through that position, and then pull back up towards the ceiling. About 10 to 15 repetitions on this, repeated 3 times. And then to get into what we'd call ulnar deviation, it's a little bit different. And so I'm going to still hold the hammer. Again, you can do this with a dumbbell as well. I'm gonna hold it upside down, basically this position right here. Let the arm hang down to my side, and then I can pull the head of the hammer up towards my elbow and then slowly return back down. About 10 to 15 repetitions repeated 3 times. You notice a recurring theme here, right? And then we just have one more motion that we need to do. It's this motion that's unique in our forearm. We call it pronation and supination. So we're gonna go over and back this way. It's an important motion for our wrist as well. You can do it with a dumbbell, you can do it with the hammer. I like to support my elbow, keep your elbow bent at a 90-degree right here, and then we're just gonna let the head of that hammer fall down as low as you can comfortably. I even encourage people to get a good stretch out of that. So let that stretch through your forearm. We're gonna hold down there for 2 or 3 seconds, and then use those muscles to come back up into what we'd call this supination motion. Head of the hammer is now over on the other side. Comfortable stretch for 2 to 3 seconds, and then back again to the other position. And we're gonna go over and back 15 times, and then you're going to do that for 3 sets. I hope these help your wrists to feel amazing, and thank you so much for watching.